Yes, welcome to Tilda, where we are going to carry out our presentation today, and our presentation is on motivation. We are going to look at what really is motivation and the theories of motivation briefly, but this presentation will be targeting managers and workers in the corporate world, in any workplace, as case may be. So the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, what is motivation? And to understand motivation, just like in many social science disciplines, we don't have a very definite definition of what motivation is. But there are two main terms which are always quoted whenever we are talking about motivation. Number one, intrinsic form of motivation, and number two, extrinsic form of motivation. So now, it therefore means motivation is about how a behavior can change either intrinsically or extrinsically. Now, in very simple terms, motivation can apply in many areas. For example, it can be in a college, workplace that is. It can even be in your family. It can be in a school, in a class. It can be in the corporate world, like in Safaricom Limited. It can be in Tata company, Microsoft. Motivation can take place anywhere, because it is about how do we encourage persons such that we have a positive or probably negative attitude towards something, right? But before we continue, it is important to look at three theories which explain more about the kind of people especially we come across at workplace. The three theories are theory X and Y, which was brought up by Douglas and McGregor, and then we have theory X, which was carried out and advocated by an American sociologist, Professor William Auchi. Now, Douglas McGregor talked about the kind of employees we come across in our workplaces. And therefore, it is important to understand what kind of people you are dealing with before you talk about motivation. Why? Because motivation is normally successful if you know what kind of people you are dealing with, because different people will be encouraged to bring results in different ways. So that's why we have to start from there. That is, who are these theory X employees? These are employees who may be employed, but they don't love work. They don't love working. Probably they are working because they have to feed their families. Theory Y is a bit advanced. These are the people who love work but not as much, right? And then theory X is the modern time employee, well educated, love his work. He sees work as joy. He has passion for work. He has the skills. He wants to be given responsibilities to prove himself or ourselves, and so on. And those people are very few. So as a manager, what is the point here? You are supposed to make sure that you identify what kind of employees you have. Do you have lazy employees? Because they are there, yes. Then you will see how to motivate them. Do you have less lazy employees? That is medium, average. Yes. Do you have the best? These are very difficult to deal with, not in the sense that they don't love work, but they want responsibilities and they want to be left alone to make decisions. That's where many managers fail. Here you have a qualified, experienced person, but you want to micromanage. That cannot happen. you'll have problems with that kind of employee, you see, or manager, so to speak. So what I'm trying to say is this: motivation is a way of changing how people are supposed to react when certain things are done to them, so that they become productive. And in a simple way, in a company setup, we need to make sure that we identify what needs to be done and how to do it. And that's why this leads me to two types of motivation theories: content theories and process theories. Content theories, which are most popular, are basically about what drives motivation. Process theory is how do you then carry out the process and achieve results. I introduced the two words earlier on, and many people will be motivated intrinsically. This means make sure that you do something to the employee which is directly beneficial to the employee and permanent. It has a permanent characteristic. Extrinsic, on the other side, is a job-related motivation. Is job-related, while intrinsic is employee-related. Take, for example, if you are a salesperson, and as a company we buy you a car, it can be through a loan. But at the end of, like, let us say 2 years, you'll own the car. That is a intrinsic motivation. But if we have our own car, which you use when or while you are working for us, it means it's our car. You'll never own it. If you are dismissed, then the car is not yours. The car is ours. That is called extrinsic. So you have to find out which motivates more. Okay? Now, with the content theories, the major two theories, content theories, are one, the needs theory by Abraham Maslow, 1954, and the two-factor theory or the hygiene theory by Hasberg. According to Maslow, he told us that in an organization, we are supposed to motivate people by identifying the following needs in a hierarchical manner. They normally climb from the lowest to the highest. And in fact, unless especially the first two needs are met, a person will not be motivated. And he talked about, number one, physiological needs. Number two, he talked about safety needs. Number three, social needs. Number four, he talks about ego or self-esteem needs. And number five, the last of the pyramid, he talked about actualization. Okay, the top, you are at the top of the mountain. Briefly speaking, without looking like I'm teaching in a classroom, what Maslow said was, number one, first of all, meet the basics of an employee or even of your family. For example, provide water. That's why you see water in offices. Provide shelter. That's why you see companies have got housing schemes. All right? It's a basic need. Provide maybe help, let us say a good environment, basically like the toilet. See, those are basic things. Then he talked about also a situation where we are supposed to improve on the second hierarchy. The second hierarchy was basically on the safety, okay? On the safety needs. On the safety needs, Maslow is telling us that employees need to be safe at the place of work. The employees must be safe at the place of work, and that's why some companies have got the health schemes. He also talked about they need what we refer to as job security. Job security, because a high turnover of employees will happen if they are not sure they will be in your company in the next few years. All right. He also talked about the third need, which is about social needs. People love working together. All right. People love working together, and they want to be friends, and that should be actualized. We are supposed to bring the environment of relationships at the workplace, not enmity. And this was even proved by our own studies, where it was found that people who were put in one factory working in groups and as friends were more productive, despite the fact in another room which had more physical features did not do much more. Meaning that people loved the aspect of relationships, gossiping, chatting stories, jokes, going to lunch together, having quality circles together, and so on and so forth. So it is important for employees even to allow intermarriages or to allow marriages within a company, of course, if it is possible. Like in Kenya, we have the Citizen TV, Royal Media Service, where we have Lulu Hassan and Abdallah. It is a couple, and they do very well. So that company applies the Maslow's theory. You as a manager try to do that in your company. Of course, with the subordinates, if you realize there will be some inefficiencies as a result of the relationships. Now, with the other hierarchy of need, ego and esteem, don't have an employee at the same position for too long. And that's why even in Kenya, we have been complaining about the teachers. A teacher staying in one position for 10 years, that's wrong. You need to improve on their rankings and so on. It also means that people, especially male, sorry to say so, they love ego. They love being recognized. There are people who love being recognized, and those are the people who can say, do this to him or her, and you will be happy because he loves to be recognized. He loves self-esteem and so on. Then the last one, which is called self-actualization. Practically, it may not be easy to achieve within one entity. But what it means is this: allow a person growth. Allow the person to grow. For example, let the person go and train, even for a vacancy which is not having a direct relationship with the job. Allow the person even to resign, go vie for a political seat, and come back if the person does not succeed. That is called self-actualization. Allow people to implement their full potential to become who they want to be. I can tell you, if I join your company knowing I will be given that environment to be who I am, I can tell you I will stick. Up to that time, I would love to move out. And the research shows that when people move out having been motivated highly in a company, they recommend, they talk good of the company. But if people leave your company when you are not motivating them properly, then they go and badmouth the company, right? So according to Maslow is telling us, try to recognize the needs of people. Now, according to the two-factor theory, the two-factor theory was basically about what motivates and what does not motivate. What motivates and what does not. And what was happening was this: Hasberg was looking at surely everything you do to an employee, we believe, will push the employee towards the results. But through research, they realized certain things motivate much more than others, and they call them motivators. And they actually are very simple things like respect, recognition, and just those very intrinsic areas of interest where the employee will be happy and will just work so hard to achieve results. So Hasberg was talking about the motivators as respect our employees. Motivators also means we are supposed to make sure that we have a climate which is not only conducive but highly conducive. Okay. Now, according to Hasberg, he also talked about the hygiene factors, all right? And hygiene factors were basically concerning those factors which do not motivate but only try to satisfy the employee to feel good, the good feeling, but they don't go to an extent of motivating. So they just make sure that all is well, but there is no that additional value to make you feel you are really wanted in this organization, organized and respected. And they actually even placed money. You will be surprised. Money was placed to be one of the motivating, in quotes, motivating rewards, which up to a certain level they will motivate, but above that they will not. For example, you have seen our politicians like Joe from Mombasa just going for a CS position. Surely, did he go there because of money? That's not true. Joe did not take up the position because of money. So this means that money, it is true, without it, in a company, people will not even come to work. But you have to know there's an extent that motivates. To me, a graduate fresh from the college can be motivated by money, but a person of 65 years age who is taking a ministerial position may not be motivated by money, but by actualization, if you are to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So someone wants to be recognized and respected in the society, not necessarily for money. Otherwise, why should the President Ruto be our president? He has the money, but he wants to be meeting people outside the country and being, people say, oh, look, that is the President of the Republic of Kenya. See? So what am I saying? I'm saying Hasberg told us to respect our employees, recognize them, reward them intrinsically, and try to make sure that while we can give them salaries, let us go a bit higher. And the reason why money is not very highly motivating is that if I give you 100,000 shillings today, within maybe 1 day or 2 days, you'll not have the money and you'll forget in a year. But if I give you a price, for example, an artist who have drawn you a picture, we give you as a reward. It will stay in your house forever. Alright? It will stay in your house forever. I can remember George Weah saying that he could not and he cannot sell his trophy he got when he became the best player of the world. Okay? Why? He said that is a trophy for not only his family but for Africa. See? So if it was money, by now you could not be having it. That's how you should realize money does not motivate. But don't misquote me. I'm not saying you don't improve the salaries of employees. I'm not trying to say that we don't, or we are not supposed to hike the salaries of employees. We are not saying that you are not supposed to look at the bonuses and so on, but I'm only saying in addition to that, you must do something much more. That much more is what is intrinsic, and it is what motivates. There were other theories also under content type of motivation, such as the hierarchy theory. All these are about needs. They were improving on the first theory by Maslow. Now, with process theories, most of them are actually about the results. How do you become productive? If we do this, you become productive. So we had people like Room who told us there is something to do with how employees should be managed. How do you motivate them? Remember I told you, you cannot motivate people the same way. People have to be motivated differently because of different circumstances which they find themselves in. So here we are talking about, let us first of all recognize who is this you are motivating. Subordinate, yes. How do you do it? Who is this you are motivating? Middle level manager. Who is this you are motivating? The director. So how do we motivate the director? I'll give you one example. When we are organizing weddings, okay, you find many people bring gifts. They will bring common gifts. like lessons to the lady, 100 lessons. So what do you do with the lessons? There are 100. So you realize it is important nowadays. We ask employees, what do you want me to do to you? See, do you want a laptop or do you want maybe a camera? What do you want? So that you give that which motivates the employee. So the bride and the bridegroom, we are supposed to make sure that we even ask them which reward you want. So that if I have asked another person to bring me a lesson as a lady, let another person bring me a microwave. So that you don't fill your house with lessons and sufurias in the house. You get the point? So what I'm saying is motivation, you have to know what the employee wants so that you can motivate. Otherwise, without that, it will be difficult. Back to McGregor and William Ouchi on your X, Y, and Z. How do you recognize employees are lazy and how do you reward them? If an employee is absenting himself, is drinking while at work, he or she might be good and you may not be willing to dismiss, but you can still motivate negatively. For example, you can deduct salaries, you can also reprimand, you can also give warnings, and so on and so on. That is called carrot and stick metaphor of motivating. So the carrot is to those theory Z, XYZ, Z employees who know their work, who have their work. You don't need to do that kind of punishment. But the theory X is an employee might be good, but is jealous. Right? And you know, sometimes as managers in organizations, because I have been a manager, you are supposed to have also empathy. Because if you dismiss this person, someone will lack food and the family. So sometimes we work until it is beyond control. We normally encourage them to change, and they change with the time. So meanwhile, as you struggle with the attitude and the behavior, we keep on motivating you negatively. We tell you, you don't come today, I slash my salary. I call you in the office, we talk. See, dismissal is not always the answer as managers. Now, once again, with the middle level, the why are not bad, they are not very good, and you need to mix. When they are not good, you use stick metaphor. When they are very good, you use the carrot metaphor, and you will motivate very well. Now, you cannot, or you can never talk about motivation without talking about leadership. What kind of leaders then we have who really would be motivating? So autocratic leaders will motivate through threats, but participative leaders will motivate through carrots, or they will motivate through the right ways. All right. This leads me to one theorist, Blake Morton. Blake Morton came up with what was called the managerial grid. Okay, the managerial grid was looking at employees vis-a-vis production. Okay, so in other words, some managers will love productivity in their organization more than the employees, and the majority are in that category, which is wrong. All right, so you'll find Blake was talking about if you are in a scale of 1-9, a scale of 1-9, it means you love very little of the employees' behavior and love very much the production. Okay. In other words, your interest, when it is more production oriented than employee, is not a good position. Blake is also talking about 5-5 scale, which looks at if you are balancing, you are coming up with the policies, motivating policies which are pro employees 50% and pro work 50%, then it's a balancing act. But 9-9 was looking at teamwork. 9-9 is looking at teamwork, where you find out is participatory management. Let us all work hard, because 9 means employees are highly motivated and productive, and it also means you are gaining. Now, with the 1-9, it's normally called a country club, and here we are looking at where you are so much concerned about the employees, such that you forget you need to show the results at the end of the year. So you have to be careful as a manager. If you are so much pro-employees, it can be a problem. From my practical point of view, I worked in a company. I was a manager for about 5 years, and I can tell you, I applied the theory of motivation in addition to Blake Morton, where I made sure that we must achieve 9-9. All employees, the culture changed such that employees would actually arrange themselves. You don't need to be there as a manager. Whoever is coming for the shift, if he will be late or she will be late, we'll arrange with the person who will come next. If someone is going for a short leave like 2 days, as a manager, you don't need even to sign the leave document. You'll find they have organized, only that they have alerted you that so and so will be on duty. And you realized timekeeping was not a problem, productivity increased, and the culture of quality increased through quality circles. The employees were having their own meetings, correcting themselves, trying to rectify mistakes. In fact, some employees will quarrel in quotes the other employees. They will tell the other employees, you are out of order. Why did you not report at work in time? You are messing us. Because every week we will look at the records and then we will say, guys, what's happening with the quality circles? They are not working. What's happening? And I can tell you for sure, I worked in that company without a lot of effort, and the productivity was very high. And that was a first time experience of the right motivation to the right employee. Now, what are we saying? What I'm trying to say is that managers are supposed to understand their employees. In fact, their personalities and their traits. They are supposed to understand this employee is temperamental. This employee is not temperamental. They are supposed to understand this employee is slow. This one is faster. This one has got many degrees. This one has a few degrees or no degree at all. So that when you know them properly and you know their behavior, you can very easily handle them successfully. In organization, we encourage professionalism, quiet and friendly environment, but an environment which is productive. We don't encourage a lot of quarreling in meetings, at place of work, enmity, and so on and so forth. We normally make sure that we encourage the affiliation philosophy, which is very good for motivating people at their workplace. So, as managers, this presentation is trying to remind you that when you are motivating, look at all the factors which can improve the well-being of this person. Like, for example, why don't you just give a certificate at the end of the year? Some companies don't give any even paperwork recognitions. Just the year has ended, no party, nothing. That's wrong. Just a paper sign. In my house, I have my dad's end of the year certifications where he was the employee of the year and all that. And you can imagine I'm keeping them today while he died many years ago. So why is that so important? It is a bond to employee. It's a bond. At home, you can say, this is where I worked, even after retirement. Yeah, you cannot do that as a manager. That is wrong, because there is no cost attached to that. Very little, if any. It is just negligible. As a manager, you yourself, you must understand yourself. What traits do you have? If you are a very temperamental manager there, sometimes you can delegate the level of motivations, right? You can delegate the level of motivation. Sorry, the water is moving close to us all the time. That's why we are moving from the ocean. All right. So what we are saying is that you will realize the employees. If you delegate to someone who is not temperamental, they can be okay. You don't need to push it yourself. If you know you cannot do it in a friendly manner, assuming you have the Z employees, who understand a lot. To managers, you are supposed to yourself to be extremely conversant with the culture of the organization and even the employees if you are to motivate successfully. Some people, you find they are having problems at homes and you are not aware. And I can tell you those things impact negatively to the organization, even though they are private. So as a manager, if you see an employee is so down, you can call in the office, you can chat, and then later you can ask, what's happening? And the employee will open up and you can really help a lot to push productivity. But this idea of at the company where people are just coming, sitting on the desk and moving, not talking, thinking that is seriousness, that is professionalism, that is not professionalism. Remember, we are not advocating people to make noises in the office, especially the open planned offices. What we are saying is that the environment should be that one of teamwork. We always advise employees that when you cross the gate into the company premises, you forget all your problems and assume everything is okay. Of course, you'll go back to your problems when you cross the gate again in the evening going home. So a manager should understand their employees, what they are going through, so that you can help. You can even have a counseling office, and if you don't have, you can hire from time to time. Next, managers are supposed to train employees from time to time so that they keep them updated. Employees who are updated through continuous professional trainings are very productive, and they will be very easy to motivate, because the first motivation should come from the employee himself or herself. But if you are not having the continuous professional developments, then the employees will keep on thinking that whatever they used to do 5 years ago is still applicable, and probably that's where things are getting worse. So you need to do something on the trainings from time to time. And remember, the trainings are motivating. Actually, trainings are intrinsic in nature. All right, they are in nature. So you must make sure that these people are being trained from time to time. You can call us, we will train them in your offices. Yeah? You don't need to go outside for training. It can be internal. That is, it can be on the job, off the job, whatever way you wish. Also, managers and executives are supposed to understand that when companies have done good, their profits are high, since the employees are the ones who have been working, they are aware. So don't tell them there's no bonus. Don't tell them there's nothing. Wait, they themselves, they can see the records. And worse, don't motivate or reward using bias systems. Okay? Reward according to merit. Biased ways of motivating are just like you never motivated at all. Actually, they bring more people in the organization. Don't do that. So make sure that when you are trying to reward also as managers, you reward according to merit, and make sure that you are fair. You are fair, but make sure that whatever you are doing to the person is rewarding. By fairness, I mean, you don't expect me to give the CEO something which is not valuable. You should look for something which is valuable. And if I know the interest of the CEO is reading autobiographies, I look for the latest biography, buy it and give the CEO. If you know the graduate from the university is working last year wants a new laptop, go and buy that laptop. Okay? Go and buy the laptop. The employee is likely to be more happier and productive. So managers are supposed to be always alert. They are always to borrow a lead from Maslow's teachings. They are always supposed to borrow a lead from Aldafa. They are always supposed to borrow a lead from Mark Grigo and William Auchi. They are supposed to borrow a lead from people like McClelland, who came up with the needs of motivation, including the works of Abraham Maslow. Remember? Okay. And definitely, with the time, you will find you are succeeding. And you are doing well. Therefore, it is always important to make sure that you can try to make sure that you are motivating according to the efforts of the employees. For those remarks, I wish you well, and visit our YouTube. I'm John Masafi, 1477. and subscribe. Remember, errors and omissions are expected in this presentation. Thank you.